What's up, guys and gals? It's your host with the most, Griever, as always, bringing you guys the latest episode review, episode 14-4, Record of Ragnarok, season 2, entitled Legend of the Underworld. One episode left before I'm finally caught up. Now, this episode has really three things I want to talk about. Three things. We'll talk about the Hajun shit, who's called Papayas or something like that in this version. Whatever, it's a translation thing. I'm just going to keep referring to him as Hajun. The dude that Buddha's fighting, right? I'm going to keep referring to him as Hajun because that's just what he's been called for so long because of translation things and stuff like that, right? And then there are two other things. We get introduced to two characters. One who has pages upon pages of backstory, who was elevated so high and mighty and intertwines into other characters' backstories to create what in the end? A really bad character. Honestly, probably one of my most hated. If not for this human fighter in round 7 who's going to be fighting in the next season, this guy would probably be my most hated character in the entirety of the series. In the entirety. Yeah, he's right down there at the very least. He's got to be in the bottom. But, as a special caveat to that, we have, just like a coin has two sides to it, a heads and a tails, if this is the tails side. Then we also have the heads side. We get a great character, a fantastic design, and honestly, just disrespected throughout this series. But I still love him. The King of Helheim, Hades, shows up. And he's badass. He looks cool. He acts cool because he is cool. He's so cool. What happens to him later, we'll get into that. That's manga territory and stuff like that. But for right now, we can close off this season knowing that Hades is that guy and shall continue to remain in my mind and the minds of fans of Hades everywhere. For Record of Ragnarok, Hades is still that guy. So, this episode, once again, we're sort of getting a little bit of the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And Hajun is pretty ugly. I mean, what was with that? Divine. I mean, yeah, alright. In Japanese, the ora sounds ridiculous, but fine in Japanese. It does not work for English translation. Please stop getting English voice actors to do that. Stop getting them to try to replicate the speed and the emotion behind the ora stuff. It does not work. Figure out something else because that was laughable. That was just so bad. And Hajun's voice actor, I'm not sure who it is, but he's got the right deep and, stuff like that. Does a fine job for a really bad plot device of a character. Does a fine job, right? Does a fine job. But in those certain instances and where he's sticking out his tongue and stuff, divine punishment. It's like, okay. Yeah, that was absolutely ridiculous, alright? And then we have Heimdall, just to add insult unto injury of that, he makes a pun. He makes a damn pun with the whole eye joke. I can't take my eyes off it. Too soon? Like, oh man. Okay, see, if only one of them happened, it still wouldn't be acceptable, but it's like, oh man. So even the guys dubbing the episode knew this was a bit of a joke, right? Like, this episode was one big joke. Because we're introducing, at the very beginning of the episode, we introduced Beelzebub. And once again, Beelzebub gets a lot of screen time in the manga. He gets a lot of character development. The issue is that when we're first introduced to him here, and he said he doesn't care, and he's the one who we see in this episode, he's the one who found with Hades' story and stuff, and Hades is the one connecting the dots. Hades is our problem solver here, giving us our history lesson. And he talks about Hajun and how he got to where he got and blah blah blah. Then he grabbed the last remnants of the soul, which, by the way, I sort of forget because I try to block out from the mid part of round 6 all the way through till round 8. I try to block most of that out. It really is the weakest point in the entire series. But I don't think we ever learn what stopped Hajun the first time. He destroyed half of one realm out of the 3 realms. We get that explanation. Here's Heaven, Hell, and Earth, right? Midgar, Valhalla, and Helheim, right? Just by different names, but still 3 planes of existence. And they're basically saying that he destroyed half of one of them and just up and disappeared. I don't believe we ever get an explanation as to what happened or why. And then randomly, though, there were remnants of his soul or a piece of him left that Beelzebub was able to take, do some Mayuri Kuretsuchi shit, and ended up replicating like a version of Hajun, and then randomly went to the most innocent god on earth he could find, a literal child, and then stuck this poisonous titan of devil kingness inside an innocent Zerofuku. Yeah, and spoiler warning, this makes no sense the more we learn about his character, why he would do this, and in fact goes against everything that he's trying not to do the more you learn about him. So, legitimately, 100% proven by own mangaka admission, this is a plot device for no better reason than we can't have a low diff fight. It's the literal only reason, because by the time we're done up to where we are in the manga, Beelzebub doing this in the first place makes no sense for his character. It did until you learn we almost got too much. Like, once again, his backstory is like the most amount of pages. It doubles almost anybody else's amount of pages and screen time. And the more we get, the more you end up writing yourself into inconsistency. Because where the character is right now and what he did to Zerofuku makes no sense by the time we learn enough about him. It literally makes no sense. So, yeah, it's a total plot device to make it so that Buddha actually had to try and stuff here. Once again, Beelzebub's voice actor does a fine job and stuff for the type of character. He sounds just like I expected him to sound, you know. And Hades voice actor. Mwah, chef's kiss. But yeah, either way, Beelzebub is introduced here. Once again, this whole mad scientist, evil, you know, sowing chaos for the sake of chaos character. Don't get too attached to this version of Beelzebub, because that's not his character about halfway through season 3. So, you know, if you like this idea of him being the mad scientist, the evil scientist, you know, some Pinky in the Brain level shit, some Mayuri Kuretsuchi shit, don't get too attached to that, because literally they forget all about this and none of it has any relevance for the rest of his character. So, yeah. Either way, one of the worst wrote themselves too deep into. They delved too deep, and they came up with a Balrog, or a Hajin in this instance. So, yeah. So Beelzebub was introduced, yada yada yada. Hades shows up, and he's once again the swagger, the badassery, and stuff. And once again, so not only did they write a character I didn't like from the get-go with Beelzebub, and then, you know, really sort of screwed up by writing too much of his character and sort of going against different things already established with his character. Hades is the guy that got the swagger, looks the part. We all want to love him. We can't wait to see what this guy's going to do. He's our new guy. Brunhilde didn't know what Hajun was. Zeus didn't know. Hermes didn't know. Nobody knew. This was our new commentator. This was the guy. He's not just a son of Zeus. He's not just Zeus himself. He's the eldest brother. He's the guy who's up here with Odin going, none of this disturbs me. No shock. Look at this. No shock. None whatsoever. You know, he's up there with the Odin stoic personality, and I was ready for it, and it would be fantastic. Unfortunately, we don't get a whole lot of time with him. Hades gets very little screen time, realistically speaking, and normally he has to share the spotlight with some other characters as a result. But for the limited time we get to see him here in this season, you know, introduced here in the second to last episode, just enjoy his presence while it lasts, ladies and gentlemen, because he is just so cool, and he is done very disrespectfully and very done dirty later on in season 3. So, spoilers for that. It's almost impossible to talk about this season because of all the implications that the end of round 6 here does, everything that implies going into the next season, and it's almost impossible to be completely spoiler-free. So I'm probably spoiling a lot of people here, and I apologize for that. I'll probably put a big spoiler tag, across the video and stuff. But yeah, so I think so I talked about Beelzebub. He still sucks. I talked about Hades. He's still the best. And Hajun, once again, is a literal plot device that by the time we get to the end of round 8, Hajun, the whole putting the horns on Zerofuku makes absolutely no sense in any description. So, yeah. So the plot device that is Hajun shows up and starts screaming, "Divine, divine, 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 divine!" And, in this very squeaky ass, trying to do the Ora Ora thing. And, seems to have the upper hand on Buddha here. The episode ends with Buddha transforming the staff 6 realms into a 7th form or something like that. The hatred, that he's supposed to have cast aside. It turns into this crazy lion death scythe thingy. Does some damage to Hajun, but of course Hajun, they both manage to attack each other at the end of the episode. Of course, he can't use his future sight because Hajun doesn't have soul. That's not really fully explained here in the anime, but the manga basically explains that Hajun, the whole here, he doesn't have a soul to read. So he can't read the future because he reads the future of the soul, not the future of the individual necessarily. So there is a separation there, but Hajun is literally a soulless demon, a soulless devil king. So he can't use his future sight, his clairvoyance. It's explained in a little different here in the anime, but is what it is. And then, the end part is Buddha standing his ground and saying, I'll kill any god who gets in my way. I'm going to save humanity. End of episode. Of course, we only have 1 episode left, so clearly the end of round 6 is upon us. We already got the backstory of Zerofuku. Hajun's backstory has already been explained. His plot deviceness has already been explained in this episode at the beginning, sort of, and Hades' explanation, sort of, there was an ancient thing, eons ago, this thing before I was even here. It's like, okay, so who destroyed this thing? And hell was hell before Hades, apparently, and who was at the throne then? Anyway, Record Ragnarok's a little inconsistent with what goes where at the time, but anyways, so yeah, the episode ends with that. We know the next episode is obviously going to end round 6. Should be a pretty good ending, I would think. I'd like to see if we get any more added scenes. We had a couple of filler scenes at the end of Season 1 that really added into a very popular theory that has basically not been disproven by the manga yet. If anything, it's been sort of proven by the manga that we all think that Brunhilde and Hermes are sort of working together on the side, a little bit on the sly there. It will be interesting to see how they handle the scene at the end of the round with Brunhilde. I want to see exactly how that's taken translation-wise or in context and or out of context. So yeah, I think the next episode will be fine. Once again, I didn't like anything that happened here at the end of round 6, from the manga or the anime, but did the anime do a fine job adapting what I don't... Yes, I think everything was adapted just fine, though once again, some of the voice acting really there were better takes, there was better ways to do it. But yeah, the choices for the 2 voice actors for Hades and Beelzebub were fine. The OST was fine, the pacing is okay. Once again, I'm just glad that we're not extending this round. If anything, we're just trying to get through it, if anything else, because once again, I really have a lot of things to dislike about, the later half here of round 6. So, anyways, that's it from me, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as always. And we'll see all you people back here next time for the final episode of Season 2. I finally have gotten through it. 1 episode left to go. And then hopefully, next time they don't break up Season 3, and I'll actually be able to get them all out on time. Because stop splitting up seasons, alright? Splitting up 10 and 5 is just dumb. Anyways, that's it from me, guys. Have a good one. Sayonara.